So, in the journey from the mid-Atlantic states to the southeast region that we're in now, to North Carolina, um, obviously I've kept track of my USCA regions, but it didn't necessarily become irrelevant to anything I was doing until we moved here. Um, I'm currently in Zone 8B. I'm in the coastal plain. Now, when I moved to North Carolina, okay, I'm in the Piedmont. That didn't really mean anything to me because I was in an apartment and I was mostly doing container plant gardening on my balcony. However, we moved further south and further east. And so we moved from the Piedmont to the coastal plain. And, I was very excited about what ecoregion I was in and, a new zone because the planting season, the range of plants that was going to be open to me increased in my mind, yes. And so we went from, actually, we were in 8A, we went to 8B with this update. At some point, I did, in my searching for information on my new ecoregion, my new zone, whatever, come across, subtypes of ecoregions. Just like, what? And so I saw it a while ago, but I hadn't really looked into it until like recently. And I'm on, I believe information is available on different sites, but the site I'm referring to mostly is the ncwildlife.org site. And I'll link that in the description. And I'm going through the subtypes. So I'm in the coastal plain, beech dune, dry longleaf pine, dry coniferous woodlands, early succession, estuarine communities, floodplain forests, lakes and reservoirs. Now I'm nowhere near water. So none of these moist sites, immediately no. Lakes and reservoirs, maritime forests, mesic forests, non-alluvial mineral wetlands, oak forest. And I'm like, okay, we have a large amount of oak in the front, but the land is primarily pine where we are. People around us are mostly pine where we are. That wouldn't fit so much. Poccasin, riverine aquatic communities, small wetland communities, tidal swamp forests and wetlands, wet pine savanna. What I've decided, what sounds like it most fits the bill, is actually dry coniferous woodlands. Okay? Non-longleaf pine coniferous woodlands occur through the coastal plains in areas planted in upland, loblolly pine, or slash pine. This habitat might include sites that, due to lack of fire, lost their original longleaf component and naturally regenerated in other pine species. The understory and midstory in these areas may be dominated by dense growing poccasin shrubs, wax myrtle, which we have some wax myrtle, and hardwood species such as oak, hickory, sweet gum, and red maple. We definitely have sweet gum. And one of the tree people my sister initially was considering doing business with said we had hickory. So, and they mention, because this is where the information is super clutch, priority species associated with coastal plain loblolly slash pine woodlands, hawks and sparrows, whippoorwills, nighthawks. Looking at what I was previously considering as fitting the bill, the dry longleaf pine habitats versus what I've now decided is most likely dry coniferous woodlands. In terms of the birds, this bird schema fits more, okay? Mammals, we have squirrels. I'm pretty sure everyone around here has squirrels. There's lots of trees. Areas that were most likely dominated by longleaf have evolved to a loblolly component due to lack of fire, are scattered throughout the coastal plain, and generally have poor structural condition with dense a mid-story and sparse to moderate understory. We really in the understory only have, as far as I can tell, the winter creeper and the jessamine, and then a bunch of reindeer moss. As far as I can tell, there's not really like a lot of plants. I mean, I'm obviously always looking. I know there's some erigonum somewhere, but that's essentially, I'm only seeing that now at the edge of where some trees were cleared recently. But actually, it also looks really tall, so I don't know. But also, what is the goal here? Because while I know that North Carolina at large is trying to, or there are efforts within North Carolina at large to reestablish longleaf pine stands. This is not a super large acreage that has to be a priority for us. No. So, what what I'm looking at when I'm seeing this are fauna I might see, fauna that might try and make a home here, which is good for me, especially if I'm looking at the snakes, right? Because we're actually, while I'm not immediately around water, there we do transition between a lot of swamps and whatnot, and then also on our property, a lot of like lizards and frogs and toads, right? There's also a lot of birds. There's a lot of wildlife here. I'm just generally wanting to know about the property, what trees might be here. Like I said, the sweet gum, because I was thinking, is this the maple? No, it's a sweet gum per Google Lens. Um, you know, so they mentioned woodpecker colonies and Cooper's hawk. I feel like it's Cooper's hawk I've seen maybe. Uh, American kestrel. I don't know about if I've seen a nighthawk. I mean, would I have seen a nighthawk? I don't think I would have. There's also is a lot of information here, I guess, with the consideration of the logging industry. Again, that's not something I think we have to really consider here. We are in a residential agricultural area, so you get the gist. Anyway, I think this is a great starting point for me in terms of looking at the land and considering what trees are here, what trees might see a resurgence post land clearing, what trees I can expect to colonize cleared areas or maybe even in front of the oaks, because there's a thick section of oaks, but even in front of them you can see some pines reestablishing, so that's interesting, right? Yeah, maybe in that area some longleafs will establish. Who knows? Maybe there I can plant, if I so desire, longleaf. I don't know. I still have to figure out if we only have loblolly, if we have loblolly and longleaf, if we by chance have a dominance of longleaf. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so thanks for listening. Bye.